That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay guys, I'm very sorry that we did not have a video over the past few days. I was traveling back from Florida to Texas and everything was so hectic that I really just went, let's take a couple days off. I'll get some extra videos out here and there. We are definitely going to make up on those days. So I apologize for that, but I have a few exciting announcements. Yes, Pro Days are happening. We have so much more data coming in. So if you are a Patreon member, if you've been following those rookie rankings, they should be updated with players like Rondell Moore, with players like Devontae Smith, guys that have recently gone through their pro days. We've gotten official numbers on them, and we can go, okay, we have a better overall picture of how this rookie class is shaking out, and there are going to be some risers, there are going to be some followers. RIP Devontae Smith and weighing 170 pounds, but we'll get to that in another video. So yeah, of course, go over to Patreon. Make sure y'all are checking out our rookie rankings. And we also have our one quarterback rookie rankings, not just Superflex, up there already. So yeah, that's something to be excited about. And another thing to be excited about over on Patreon is we are going to start doing giveaways. Very, very exciting to make this announcement, but I recently got something in the mail when we got back to Texas. Here is what we are going to be doing. I don't think we are going to be selling these. These are official Flock jerseys. So excited about these. I am honestly very impressed about the quality. But I think instead of selling them, because jerseys cost a lot to make, like it's going to cost me a decent penny to buy those. I don't want to be charging $90 to $100 for a jersey, like I know that a lot of like competitive video game companies and stuff do. I would rather just be buying them with my own money and giving them out to the show supporters on Patreon. So that's another thing to get excited about. I'll be making a post about that soon where I'm going to be looking for sizes. I'm going to be looking for names and numbers that you want on the back of the jersey so I can get those going out to y'all. Of course, I don't know if I can give everybody one as we have 200 members, and if it's going to cost me a lot to make a jersey, I can't be shilling out $10,000 to buy everybody jerseys. But anyway, it's going to be very, very exciting. And something else that's exciting is Rondell Moore. Let's get into the man who, first off, I just want to say an extreme outlier. And I never like chasing outliers, but I think this is the time to do it. At the end of the video, I will update y'all with where he's ranked in our official rookie rankings, as well as what landing spots I think we could be interested in seeing with Rondell Moore. And first off, let's give an overall outlook on Rondell Moore, who's currently 20 years old, and we know we love to see that extremely young age. We love to see the player come out after 3 years in college. We do not need to see him redshirt. This is what you want from Rondell Moore. And he's currently projected to be a late first round, early second round Dynasty Superflex rookie pick, and at this price, I am all over him. I am not hesitating drafting him. I'll give that little sneak peek out. And I know a lot of people are going to say, Mason, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense because you talk about all the time that athleticism matters a ton at the running back position, where it has a strong correlation to fantasy football success, but at the wide receiver position, athleticism doesn't really have that strong of correlation. And here I'm saying, yeah, if we're talking about pure correlations, if we're talking about pure things that translate from college to the NFL level, wide receiver athleticism is generally overrated. But what we need to be doing is we need to not just be looking at one variable. We need to be trying to combine them all to paint an overall picture of what we think about these wide receiver prospects. So let's look at Rondell Moore. Let's look at his athletic profile combined with some college production and try to look at him historically. And I will say that Rondell Moore, the number one thing that people are going to be going against him with is his size, where he is about 5'7", and I just want to laugh and go, ha ha ha, I told y'all so. Because when we were talking about Rondell Moore at the beginning of the offseason, I kind of mentioned the fact that he could come in at 5'7", that we were worried that he was going to be way shorter than what he was listed at 5'9", and people said, Mason, watch the tape, you idiot, there's no way he's 5'7", and yeah, well, here we are. But anyway, that doesn't matter too much for me. He ran a 4.29 40-yard dash, and if we put some historical context behind this, very few wide receivers in NFL history have been able to run a sub 4.30 40, and we'll go over those wide receivers, and pretty much all of them have failed, but we'll get to why later on. And if we go recently, Henry Ruggs actually ran a 4.27, But more important, in my opinion, is just seeing the overall quality of an athlete that Rondell Moore is, where he is not just a straight line speed guy. He also has the explosion. Henry Ruggs last offseason actually had the record for the highest vertical jump for any wide receiver to ever run a sub 4.30, and that was at 42 inches. Where Henry Ruggs came out here, he ran that same sub 4.30 40-yard dash and broke that record where he had a 42.5 inch vertical. So an absurd athlete. And we know you're hearing, okay, Henry Ruggs versus Rondell Moore. Rondell Moore is just this very small guy that's extremely fast and can jump really high. I know that y'all are probably imagining a guy that's a little twig out there, someone who's very small. But while he did not perform the bench press at his pro day, he actually sent out a tweet where he had a video of him benching 225 for 24 reps. Now, yes, you can look at this. You can go look at pictures. You can look at the fact that he squatted 600 pounds at 18 years old. And we just come away with the fact that we may be saying that Rondell Moore could possibly be the best athlete in the entire NFL day one, if we are just talking about his size-adjusted athleticism, where we are going, you know what, he's this light, he is this small, and he is this strong. I mean, it's an absolute absurdity that he is this athletic. Although, like I said, straight athleticism does not necessarily translate over to fantasy production. What actually matters at the wide receiver position, what has a much stronger correlation, is age-adjusted production. And this is where Rondell Moore becomes a true outlier. This is where you go, okay, not only is he an historic level athlete, not only is he one of the best athletes that we have ever seen coming into the NFL, but we are looking at his age 18 season. He's 18 years old, guys, true freshman here. 2018, he averaged 9 receptions a game, over 110 total yards a game, and 14 total touchdowns. And this actually had him win the Paul Hornung Award, which was pretty much for the best playmaker in college football. And he did this at 18 years old. The only other players to do this have been Christian McCaffrey, Odell Beckham Jr., Tavon Austin, Devontae Smith, and they weren't 18 years old when they did it. This is a straight up outlier type season. And then we go through and we go, okay, so he's an outlier in his age-adjusted production, which we know has an extremely strong correlation to fantasy football success. He's an outlier with his athletic profile, but we know the athletic profile doesn't necessarily translate to fantasy success. And this is something I talk about all the time, in that these speedy wide receivers that are field stretchers, they can make drastic impacts for their NFL offenses while not necessarily providing us a ton of fantasy value. I mean, you look at a Marquez Valdez-Scantling, you look at a Kenny Stills. These are some names that have a decent amount of value in the NFL, but if we go alongside with fantasy, they really don't matter at all, just because they're not getting the volume. So we have to ask ourselves, okay, so is it bad that Rondell Moore is this fast? As dumb as that sounds, is he going to be pinpointed in as a player that is a pure field stretcher, not necessarily getting the volume? Because like I alluded to at the beginning of the video, if we look at all the sub 4.30 wide receivers since the year 2000, I mean, you have a ton of bust. I mean, it's bust after bust after bust after bust. So let's go through and let's look at every wide receiver that ran a sub 4.30, so a similar range of a Rondell Moore in the 40-yard dash, and let's see their college production, because I think that's going to be so important. If we try to combine these two things and we go, okay, he's an outlier here, he's an outlier here, have we ever seen someone with both? And the answer to that is no. Okay, so we go to John Ross, who, John Ross, yes, we know, record breaker with the 40-yard dash at a 4.22. And we go through and we go, okay, what was his best college season in terms of his overall production? And his best college year was at 22 years old, so 4 years later than Rondell Moore. And we know Rondell Moore averaged 9 receptions, over 110 yards. We look at John Ross, he goes, okay, he averaged 5.8 receptions, 90 yards at an age 4 years older than Rondell Moore. Okay, so that's night and day. Then you go to Jerome Mathis, who was also able to run a sub 4.30, but he was a wide receiver, really with no production at all, just speed. Don't even need to talk about him. Then we go to a recent example with Henry Ruggs, who his best year was at 21 years old, so 3 years after we saw Rondell Moore. And while Rondell Moore had the 9 receptions, 110 yards, Henry Ruggs had 3.3 receptions, 70 yards a game, 8 total touchdowns. So we go, okay, Rondell Moore blew him out of the water in production. Then we go to Marquis Goodwin, University of Texas represent, but here his best season was at 19 years old, under 3 receptions a game, 33 receiving yards a game, and 1 total touchdown. Then you have Jacoby Ford, 4 receptions a game, 64 yards a game, 8 total touchdowns. J.J. Nelson, 4.2 receptions, 70 total yards, 4 total touchdowns. And then one name that I'm sure a lot of people actually remember, Darius Hayward-Bay, 3.5 receptions, 68 total yards a game, and 6 total touchdowns. So we're looking at this and going, okay, so maybe what we are seeing here is Rondell Moore in college and Rondell Moore in the NFL does not profile to be someone that's going to be a field stretcher, because these other wide receivers that came into the NFL and had a ridiculous sub 4.30 40, they were field stretchers in college. They were guys not necessarily getting the volume at the college level. Now, Rondell Moore, what are we looking at with the NFL today? The NFL today is prioritizing playmaking wide receivers that can make plays after the catch. Think Deebo Samuel. Think Brandon Ayuk. Think what Kyle Shanahan is doing in San Francisco. The age of the wide receiver, like a T. Higgins, that is really over. You don't necessarily see those wide receivers coming in, winning at the catch point consistently, not generating separation. And the reason for this is because you are seeing that defensive backs really can't be that physical. So being big, being tall is, I don't want to say a disadvantage, but it's not nearly the advantage in the NFL today that it once was. The advantage today is being speedy, being able to generate separation, catching the ball, turning upfield, and getting to the end zone. We have seen this time and time and time again. I think that Rondell Moore right now, what we are seeing is he is the definition of a new age wide receiver that if he falls in a good landing spot with a coaching staff that knows how to use him, that is not going to ask him to be a traditional wide receiver, that can use his strengths and get him open in space, get him the ball, and let him work after the catch. I think with Rondell Moore in that scenario, we are going to see the 2 major things on his profile with his athletic testing measurables and his early career production. We are going to see those 2 things come into play, and we are going to see Rondell Moore have a ceiling that is really unmatched in this rookie class outside of the Jamar Chase. And we go, right now, he is being mocked to be a late round 1, early round 2 pick. And let's go through a couple teams that are in this range that I would love to see Rondell Moore with. Obviously, you have the Kansas City Chiefs. And I know that's crazy to think about, that the Chiefs would go out there and take Rondell Moore. And I know this is the fact that everybody always points to the Chiefs. But, I mean, I think that that is something that would be actually a great fit. You have Tyreek Hill, you have Mecole Hardman, you add another player that has that dynamic speed with a head coach that can definitely use his strengths with Andy Reid. I think that would be a perfect recipe for success. Then you also have teams like Miami. Miami would be another great destination because Rondell Moore can play anywhere on the field. You can ask him to play in any role and he is going to be successful because this is the NFL in 2021. This isn't the NFL of 2010. Brandon Marshall is not going to be around much longer. I mean, you are not going to be seeing these 6'4", 6'5" wide receivers that are elite at the catch point, having consistent success. What you're going to be finding is you're going to be finding these smaller, speedy wide receivers, despite their size, if they can get open, they're going to have a ton of success in making plays after the catch. And that's what I think we are going to have here with Rondell Moore. So because of all of this, I know it's crazy to say, but given the Devontae Smith size concerns, I think that what we have to do is, of course, we're going to cover this in the Devontae Smith video later this week, is we have to have Jamar Chase at 1 overall. And it sucks. I didn't have Jamar Chase there previously this offseason, but like I always said, if Devontae Smith actually came in severely underweight, we could always make that change, which we are. So Jamar Chase is at 1. Then I think you have a tier drop-off. I think you have Rondell Moore, Devontae Smith sitting there in tier 2 alone, and I think you could go either way. You could have Rondell Moore as your second overall wide receiver, and I would be completely fine with it. Now, thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. I really hope y'all got something from it. As always, go down there, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a ton, and I'll see y'all with the video tomorrow.